Hello, this is Gomez Gaming. Isaiah Adams, hints, tips, and tricks for new bros in EVE Online. I had a guy ask me about the fit on this ship from one of the other videos. So I thought, well, I'll just do a video on the fit on this ship. And once I get going, man, I get going. And the video ended up being 40 minutes. And I thought, you know what? People aren't going to sit there and watch a video for 40 minutes when they could be playing the game. So I got to shorten that video up. So what I want to do is try to run over real quick this fit. Number one rule is when you fit a ship is fit for the role. The role is security missions, and it's PvE. It's not PvP. So we're fitting for PvE security missions. Okay, that dictates everything that you're going to put on this ship. If it was a PvP ship, you'd be using completely different other total modules. And let me just show you real quick. Type in, what you can do is go to your Google, open that, and just type in apocalypse fittings, and just hit EVE and then enter. And then EVE University, EVE Wiki, I like that. They're really, those are great articles. Anyway, and they'll give you samples, and then they show you fitting difficulty. Here's a PvP beam sniper, PvP pulse, and here's the only PvE example that they give. But the fitting difficulty is 5, and a lot of these modules are Tech 2. And this is hints, tips, and tricks for new bros. So this fitting really wouldn't do you a whole lot of good. I'll tell you what I do is I don't use pulse lasers. I use beam lasers. The reason why is range. But that's my preferred play style. I like to keep range. I like to be far enough away to hit them and far enough away that they can't hit me. And that's my play style. A pulse laser is a closer range. They're more powerful, but they're closer range. You can't get the range with a pulse laser that you can with a beam laser. And so that's all I'm going to say about that, because it takes up too much time to start going over and looking at all the fittings. But he does. I will mention he uses the same armor reconstructor that I use. And I put that into the compare tool, and I found that as a Tech 1 armor, the armor repairer, that's the best one to use. Large accommodation investment reconstructor. Remember that. All the other ones are not worth it. Don't even use them. Just use this one. Don't use anything else. That's my recommendation. And so let's get out of here and go back to here. Now, the way I fit a ship is I start with the guns. And so right at the top is tachyon modulated energy beam. The way I do that is with the compare tool. You get the compare tool, you open it up, and you just stick all those guns in there, and you start comparing the features, and you pick you a gun. I just happen to pick the tachyon modulated. That's the one I liked. And then I did the same thing with the crystals. I stuck all the crystals in the compare tool, and I picked the crystal. What's cool about crystals is crystals will actually give you a capacitor benefit. The tachyon modulated gun itself, the weapons will eat up your power grid. When I first put those guns in, I had 97.30% power grid gone. So I immediately had a problem. I had to get the power grid back. Now the way I did that was I stuck a ancillary current router on there. And if you check your information, you can check the attributes, and it gives you a 10% bonus to your power grid. And then I also used a, this will give you a bonus to your power grid, and that's the Mark I reactor control unit, and it will give you 12%. And so that got me enough power grid to go ahead and fit the rest of the modules. Now, to explain this really quickly, and that's why these videos take so long, because this stuff is important. You got to know the difference between the power grid and the capacitor. And to think about it simply, power grid is electricity, capacitor is battery. Let me turn this down. I'm talking too loud. The power grid is electricity, which is not stored. It's just like plugging into your house. And every time you put a module on, it takes a certain amount of that power grid to activate the module, to fit it and to activate it. Now, once you turn that module on, it's going to use the stored power, which is your battery, really. It's called the capacitor, but basically what it is a battery. Okay. And so the second thing I will put on after the guns is the micro warp drive. And the reason for that is because it will eat up all your CPU. So that lets you know where you stand on your CPU. What happened on that was pretty much the same thing. I'm at 97% CPU gone. So I got to get it back. I got to get it back somehow. And so what I did was I went with capacitor flux coil here. I went with a capacitor control circuit there, and I went with the compact cap recharger here. So I got a low slot, a mid slot, and a rig. All three of those things are affecting the same attribute. You get penalized. To use more than 3 is a moot point. Do not ever use more than 3. It's a waste of time, total waste of time. You can use up to 3, and that's about it. After that, the penalties just ruin you. And that gave me enough capacitor. At that point, I had enough capacitor and I had enough power grid to go ahead and fit this ship. Okay, the way I fit now, what I chose for the rest of the fittings was, number one, a heat sink. What that'll do for a laser ship is it will give you 9.5% rate of fire, and it'll give you 1.8% damage modifier. Now, the really way to go is to put 2 of those on, but I couldn't fit 2 of those on, or I would have 2 of those on. So I put at least 1 on. The other module would be armor. I got the IFFA compact, which gives me 12% across the board. And then I got the experimental energized, and that gives me 15% across the board. And the reason for that is look, when you go up against Sancha, you go up against Angels, you go against all these different factions, and they all have different weapons, and they all affect different things. They might be explosive, they might be kinetic, they might be thermal, or they might be EM. The problem is every time I go up into a new mission, I don't want to refit my ship. So what I do is I just put those adaptive. That just gives me across the board. And I don't have to refit my ship every time I go out on a mission. So basically that's why I use that. You can do it any way you want, but that's why I do it. As I already talked about, the accommodating investment reconstructor, that's the one that I would recommend for new bros. This is all Tech 1 stuff. This is all new bro stuff. Nothing special about it, nothing high tech, nothing Tech 2. It's all Tech 1. The other 2 modules that I use are the tracking computer, which gives me, and I put a tracking script in it. The reason for that is when you're in a big ship, it's hard to hit little ships. And unless your tracking is really trained up, and of course as a new bro your tracking is not trained up, you're going to want a tracking script that lets me hit those little ships. And I'll tell you what, sometimes you can't hit them. And if they get too close to you, you can't hit them at all. You can fire it at them all day long and you just won't even hit them. And at that point, you're totally dependent upon your drones. I'll tell you what, a bunch of frigates and a couple of spider drones will kill a battleship. That's how dangerous they are. So you want a script. You want a script. I would highly recommend it. Again, you can use whatever you want. I choose that. The other thing I use is the optimal range disruption script in this scoped tracking disruptor. I use the scoped. Okay, that's a key word there, scoped. It gives me more range. That thing ranges out to 66 and it'll range even further than 66. So I got great range with that. The only thing that I don't like about that is that it only targets one ship. So if there's 15 ships out there firing on you, you can really only shut down one of them. And I wish they do make modules that you can blanket, do a blanket deal, but listen, that's more power. It wouldn't have fit on here, and I'm not sure if I would have wanted to use it anyway, because it doesn't have the range. So I use the tracking, the DDO scoped, and then I use the tracking computer with the and that's just the tracking computer one. I don't know, we could compare and see if there's better tracking computers. There might be, but I used the tracking script on that. So basically that's my fit. I don't know if I talk about my rigs. I used the ancillary current router, and then I used the control circuit, and that was to get my capacitor and my power grid up to grade. Then I had one extra slot. But what I choose was the energy burst aerator. What that does is increases my firing rate. It increases my firing rate. It doesn't give me any more power, but it increases my firing rate. So I chose that. Now, if I had the room, this is where the videos start getting long because I will run on. If I had the room, what I would like to put is an EM shield in there, because these things come with 0 EM shield resistance. And the problem with that is that if you want to take somebody's shields down in a hurry, I'll tell you what you use. You use acolytes, because they use EM damage. And they're just going to be firing, they're going to be taking out the guy's shields. EM damage is what takes out your shields. And your ship comes stock with 0% resistance against EM. So I would like to put an EM shield resistance rig in here to give myself, so that I'm not giving away my shields. I mean, basically, that's how I look at it. It's like, hey man, I'm not giving you my shields for free, man. I'm going to make you work for them. You see what I'm saying? You want my shields, you're going to have to work for them. So I'll put an EM shield resistance bonus there. And it makes it tougher for them to get through my shields and into my armor. Once they get into my armor, I got my armor reconstructor. But I don't want to give them my shields for free. Okay, so that's as fast, and I covered as much possible information as I possibly could in the shortest amount of time that I possibly could. And I don't know how much time it took, but I will say this is Gomez Adams, hints, tips, and tricks for new bros on EVE Online, but we do other games. Hey, listen, I'm just a gamer. I don't go out and do All I do is turn on the screen recorder and talk. I can't make movies. I ain't professional. And to tell you the truth, that sounds more like work to me. I ain't out here to make money. I'm doing this just for fun. I just enjoy it. I enjoy sharing what I've learned. And so that's what I do. So and another thing, my hotkeys don't work in game. So excuse me that I have to go outside of game to shut this thing off, which is kind of embarrassing, but it's just the way it is. And so over and out. Good luck, have fun, and fly safe. Gomez out.